Welcome, everyone, to the How to Get the Most Out of College podcast. There's a lot of talk about where to go to college, but not nearly enough about how to go to college. And it's the everyday decisions that drive your success. I'm your host, Elliot Felix. I've been a consultant to more than 100 colleges and universities, helping them improve their student experience. And I'm the author of How to Get the Most Out of College, where I take what I've learned about how college works and make it work for you. This episode is going to be a little different because instead of interviewing a higher ed expert or a student, I'm sharing a talk I gave on the ways that colleges and universities can partner with companies. It's called the what, why, and how of university partnerships. And I think it'll be an interesting presentation and discussion about the ways that colleges and universities and companies can partner, whether it's on talent and recruiting or on experiential learning projects so that students work as consultants for companies while they're in school and they get to build their skills, their network, their identity, and test out a career path, or on collaborative research efforts as part of a consortium and more. Give it a listen and let me know what you think. This talk will go through 3 segments: why partner, what to partner on, how to partner effectively. Wanted to share a little bit about the case for partnerships. I think it has to do with career preparation, experiential learning, high impact practices, the things we know matter. Not a lot of students feel prepared for their careers. We know when students do an internship, they're much more likely to be engaged at work, find their education was valuable. We know not a lot of students are satisfied with mentoring. And so the more we can forge these partnerships, I think the better it is for students, for society, for companies. And I think that closer collaboration can also improve the recruitment process. How much less risk there is in hiring someone that's been part of a 6-month apprenticeship program, that's gotten hands-on instruction, that's coming in as a cohort, that's working together, versus someone you meet at a career fair wandering around a convention center, right? There's so many better ways we can build that pipeline to be more of a journey and less of a handoff. I think these partnerships can also be interesting ways to find new delivery models. Just one of those is LSU working with Full Stack. It's a great way to spark discussion and innovation around program delivery. So it's not entirely about a 4-year degree, and there's different options. We know most employers actually prefer some kind of credential or certificate that complements a 4-year degree because it shows technical expertise, for instance, and domain expertise. I think these partnerships are also a way to break the 4 for 40 cycle, the idea that you go to school for 4 years and then you have a career of 40 thereafter, and really change the paradigm to embrace lifelong learning. And I think working together to solve societal problems, whether it's COVID detection through wastewater, these are all things that you can solve by working together, and you can create economic impact in the process. One of the things I love, the NSF's Center for Industry University Partnerships and Collaborations, showing a 40x return. Every dollar you spend forming these partnerships results in $40 of funding. So, tech transfer doesn't always pay for itself, but these partnerships do. Proven impact. One of my favorite impact studies is the Gallup Purdue Index, which they haven't done in a few years, but in 2016, they did quite an extensive study looking at and correlating what students do in college and what impact that has in a number of different ways. And students who had a mentor are twice as likely to think their education was worth the cost, for instance. And that's pretty timely given that the latest Wall Street Journal poll, 56% of Americans, higher ed was a bad bet. And so I think the more we can show value, and then of course, if you're in a mentoring program, you're understanding the next generation of talent. Courses that create, industry university connections are also great. And they could be about, the people, or they could be about content. 2 of my favorite examples, one that we were involved in was Metro State. We did a student experience assessment, and we found that this kind of connection, how does my class connect to a career, was really lacking. And alumni engagement was lower than they were hoping. So this was like one of those great opportunities to make, 1 + 1 = 11, because they could bring in alumni to be part of classes, to be
part of career fairs to get them more engaged, to serve as mentors, to serve as role models, to give guest lectures, and that the students could see how their work was applicable. They could build relationships, build skills. Maybe one of those alums needs an internship or wants to serve as a mentor. We called it career in the classroom. And then, one of my favorite examples is at Gutman Community College in New York City. Every student takes a class called the Ethnography of Work or Ethnographies of Work. And what you do is you go out and talk to people who have jobs you might want to have. And from that, you get some industry exposure, you build some connections, and you have a sense of like what their journey was and maybe how you can follow it. And it's been wildly, wildly successful for them. Internships also have great impact. They're a way to explore career paths, build connections, build skills, portfolio projects. We know that from Gallup's work, we know that students that have an internship are much more likely to be engaged at work after graduation, which means you're connected to, committed to the work, you're enthusiastic about the work you're doing. And we know everybody's in it for impact, particularly Gen Z. And I think if these research projects have an opportunity to solve societal problems like we were talking about, they also give people a chance to feel like they're part of that, part of something bigger. That can be a sense of purpose, just like a career path. And I think, there's more and more research showing that the current generation of students is feeling a little bit aimless, is looking for that, is missing that sense of purpose. Working with a faculty member who's trying to detect COVID or who's trying to create a more just and equitable world, that's pretty exciting stuff at a personal level and a societal level. That internship can be scaled up to a co-op or an apprenticeship program where you're getting even more of that real world experience and creating those overlaps and building those skills and those networks, and as a result, de-risking a lot of the hiring, companies, their talent, students actually get higher salaries. And interestingly enough, you get a salary bump even if you didn't finish your co-op. You get about a $6K salary bump for participating in a co-op and about a $10K salary bump for completing the co-op. It's kind of showing, even without the credential, the experience has value in and of itself. So some tips for effective partnership. I think it starts with mutual understanding between university and industry. There are some stereotypes, for instance, that people have to get over. Oftentimes they think of each other in simplistic, stereotypical terms, like, what could be more different, an ivory tower and a factory floor, or, universities sometimes are mistaken for think tanks with, faculty are just sitting around waiting for problems to solve, or companies are thought out as like these banks that are just like looking for projects to fund. But I think, the more folks can understand each other in terms of like schedules, culture, goals, values, the better they can complement each other. And then I think you can build on that by identifying shared goals. For instance, the partnership you're talking about isn't in the business plan or the strategic plan. Like, it's probably going to fail because it's going to be kind of like a sideshow. It's not going to be a priority for one or both parties. So I think the more you could find that like goal and value alignment, the better. This is just one example. Syracuse University has been among the leaders in thinking about how to support veterans and military families. That's been a long priority for JP Morgan Chase. So they've had like a 20-year partnership about programs and, then a center and then a building all about supporting student vets and their families. I think part of the success is it's rooted in that shared values, shared goals. I think the other thing that really helps is creating a digital and a physical front door. A lot of times companies that are looking to get connected with universities don't know where to start, or vice versa. Increasingly universities are creating like front door, one-stop shop where people know people are conversant with everything that's going on and can create those connections or help bring people together. University of Minnesota calls it their corporate engagement center. There are other iterations of this. I think the other thing where partnerships sometimes go off the rails is people just start working together and there isn't real clarity on who owns the IP. So you might be creating something. And of course, the best time to talk about something awkward is like before it happens. So I think, the more you can clarify the IP or you create it, is it a consortium model like MIT Media Lab, or does the funder of a specific project have the right of first refusal? Do they have exclusivity? But, is it licensing? Clarifying the model, I think, can be really helpful. Likewise, clarify the funding, because I think there's more and more incubators or accelerators getting created. A lot of people use those terms interchangeably, for instance, and then all of a sudden, someone starting a new venture may not realize, that an accelerator is generally taking equity and an incubator generally isn't. And so two very different models. And what's the exchange, not just the actual contract, but the kind of like social contract. And I think finally, shared space can facilitate these partnerships, whether it's an innovation district or a specific building. We worked with Carnegie Mellon on a robotics innovation center, redevelopment of a post-industrial site off campus, Skunkworks. And I think the beauty of that is it's going to be very easy for partners and university researchers to work side by side. So one team, the computer vision team might have folks working on the same project from two different entities, or, the next space over might have industry partners. So I think shared space can help.
Thanks everyone for listening. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And check out elliottfelix.com for all the episodes and the articles I've written, talks I've given, and more information about the book.